Check, check, check. All right, I hear a click. That's good. Okay, let's see. Live, and we got the chat. Yay, my own creation. We can picture and picture it too. That's pretty nice. All right, all right. So, a minute and a half in. This is my 4th attempt. It's been a while since I've done a stream. So this is an exploring topics on a whiteboard. Welcome if you're new to the channel. If you've been subscribed for a while, thank you. Trying to up the production value a little bit. I actually made a thumbnail before this stream, and I'm not super happy with the title, but I've been thinking about topics related to this for a while, and in my own kind of prison, really, which, you know, karma. And, you know, I'm not blaming the fools for putting me here because I didn't have the wisdom to deal with the fools. But once a pig gets you into the mud and his friends start coming to mess with you too, because they see that you're in the mud already, it gets pretty hard to get out of the mud, right? So that's where I am. And I was just exploring some of the prerequisite ideas to foolishness and karma. So what is karma? Karma is repaying sin. And what is sin? Sin is missing the mark. So your arrow misses. You fell short, you missed. And how do you pay back karma? It's by learning a lesson. And what do you do when you've learned a lesson? You repent. What is repent? Repent is to stop and change direction. So, I had the wisdom to deal with fools who I didn't know were fools for most of my life, without knowing I had the wisdom or that I was addressing them properly until about 2016, when I got to very rich fools and, you know, people who could make extremely subtle moves against me, and then I couldn't respond to that foolery properly. And so in order to keep going past that level, I have to learn how to hit the mark, how to not be in sin. So this isn't like a religious idea of sin. This is just not hitting the mark and taking the time to repent so that I can hit the mark. And this is semi-related to a video that I recorded back in about 18, the Coriolis effect and poverty, which is, you know, something I've extensively alluded to and experienced as time's got on. You know, I basically predicted it at that point. But I realized the first time I was starting to go hungry, first couple times, that the more poor you get, like the less confident you get, the less well received you are by people, the less willing they are to give you the benefit of the doubt, the more fees you pay. You know, it's just like all around, like more pressure, higher prices. So the more poor you get, like as you go down, the water is traveling the same distance around the drain, but it's going how do we say it? It's traveling the same 360 degrees around the drain, but over a smaller period, and so it's going faster because it's going the same speed as the water up above it. And so as you go down and down and down, the water is getting faster and faster and faster. And so you basically have to find an unconventional way to scratch out and get around the Coriolis to get back to the top, because through sheer strength of swimming alone, it becomes totally impossible. And so this is where through God all things are possible, you know, miracles. And man, what a different time. I haven't watched this video in a long time, but it would be interesting to watch that. I didn't have the concept of, like, I knew karma, but I didn't really relate it to sin. I was shooting archery at that time, which is really fun and cool, and like Zen in the art of archery. Not sure if that totally relates. I didn't have the idea of reprobate, which clinically is basically narcissist, or another way to put it is soulless. Like, there's kind of 3 levels of that. There's the everyone's on this scale between empath and narcissist somewhere. But then there's also like do you want to you know, what's your free will? Do you want to feed off of others, take others' energy, or do you want to use the energy from within? And so there's fools who are fools because they know that it benefits them, like the curse of development from the ribbon farm guy. And then there's lost people. So yeah, there's like wicked people. There's good people, and there's lost people. And our goal as good people is to pull the lost people to our side before the narcs traumatize them onto their side. And so foolishness mostly exists. I mean, anyone can be pulled down to a fool's level, but voluntary foolishness exists really over here. And involuntary, you know, foolishness where you need to learn lessons exists. I mean, really everywhere. Probably every empath has to learn that. And of course, people on the narc side too, when they haven't learned all of the, you know, 48 laws of power and Machiavellianism and whatnot, like, they're going to, you know, make mistakes and fall into the foolishness of other fools as well. But yeah, So there's one more idea that I'm thinking whether we can tie this in or not. And that is what I mentioned a couple videos ago, sadism. Because in terms of narcissist, you have either the sadistic ones who are the psychopaths, and then you just have the sociopaths. And they're kind of optimists. Opportunists. And so in terms of this, you know, you've got definitely the psychopaths here, and then the sociopaths, you know, they could be, they still enjoy the foolery. They're just, it's just like, what is their intention for being fools, or for trying to provoke a foolish reaction out of you? That's a word that I haven't written down, is provocation. So, don't argue, they definitely provoke. And here's sort of where I've fallen in. And also don't teach. You know, I've definitely cast my pearls before the swine. And what do? They use your vulnerability and telling them about lessons and your own failures. And they use it to demonstrate to others that you have a pattern of failure. Things like this. You know, they use it to try to provoke reactions out of you. Even, like, even slandering against you, gossiping about you, getting other people, you know, to come and try to get a reaction out of you. Or, you know, gossiping because they know that someone else will go to you and try to get a reaction out of you. And then now you have two witnesses, and two witnesses make truth. You know, in the court of law, yes. Who knows where the court of law is? Probably most... Do I trust it? I don't know. You're supposed to, according to... Yeah, I haven't had any problem with that kind of thing when I've shown up to defend myself. When I haven't shown up, obviously default judgments have come against me. So, you know, in theory, all of these failures and failures and failures, missing the mark, missing the mark, missing the mark, repent, miss, repent, you know, it should bring me up to where I was heading over time. And, like, mathematically, the only way to get there is pretty quick. Because if I don't get there quick, I'm going to be an old man by the time I get there. And then, if I'm an old man, I'm not as capable of doing things that I might have been meant to do. So, yeah. When I talked about the Coriolis effect before, I did not include the idea of karma into it, and getting stuck in karmic loops, karmic cycles. You know, it's just like week after week after week after week, and it's not the same every week. I'm always changing stuff. But it's like, you know, go back to a lot of stuff in the Escaping Domestic Abuse playlist, which this video is also in. And we talk about, the resources of, how far can you travel if you have like $1, $10, $100. Just to start a job, it might cost a few $100s. So if you've only got $10, you literally can't take yourself far enough to start a job. So all your options are to like busk, which is kind of what I do when I'm sitting here talking about Venmo and Patreon, or beg, which is literally just asking for resources for nothing. And I've talked about this in 1 or 2 videos in the past. I could definitely use a social media manager or somebody to help me catalog all these ideas and do the metadata on the video to tie stuff together and whatnot. That's a little bit beside the point of this video, of this topic, which we're at under 20 minutes. That's amazing. So yeah, I tried to up the production value of this one a little bit by making a thumbnail first, and I'm not trying to be a content creator. I'm trying to be a content management system maker. But in order to do that, I need some original content to operate on, and so I'm making my own content and learning the process of making content so that I can make tools for myself and then extend that out to other people. So, production quality I can improve, reachability I can improve, basically I'm just, I've got so little resources I can't commit to too much. So where's my sin here? How can I repent here? I'm constantly trying stuff. Like, to repeat yourself over and over is the definition of insanity. And yeah, everyone wants to think the homeless guy is mentally ill, but I'm trying new stuff all the time. And yeah. So, by the way, I'm not one to block people. I hate blocking because it creates a list of people. It enshrines a list of people who are, it's like subscriptions. It enshrines a list of people who you don't want to remember, where it's almost better to just let them be there and make fools of themselves, because their own doing that, act foolish, miss the mark, you have to repay karma by learning a lesson, right? So how is blocking them teaching them a lesson? It's really not. And by letting them come at me publicly, I've just never liked the idea of blocking. It's just overall better to not block. So I don't want to go too far off on that tangent either. But, the people who come into my channel and make slanderous claims about me, what happens if I find out who you really are? You think you're going to be paying back some of that? So, people, there's a line, You can come in and ask questions, but if you come in and make claims, then you're stepping into slanderous territory. And that's some foolishness right there, and you're going to have to pay that foolishness back somehow. It may not be through my retaliation, through proper channels, but, at some point, you're going to have to, your elevation's going to get stuck because you haven't learned that lesson. So yeah, This didn't exactly go the direction that I've had in mind, but I'm getting dusty because I'm not doing enough of these talks lately. So thanks very much for joining us, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.